My grandmother always tells me that after 67 they felt relieved, in the sense that there was a cultural suffocation that was gone. Because suddenly you can go to cities like Jenin and buy cloth, just the way you did 19 years before or 17 years before in Baghdad, yes. Or you can buy food, or you can speak to people in Arabic, or buy music. All these things did not exist in Israel that since, I say, 51 they came until 67. The joke is that she and her sister, they went to Jenin and they didn't want to leave. They wanted to stay there. It is nostalgia, but I think it is also, I think this, the victory of 67, or the Arab defeat of 67, was the first time that Arab Jews experienced a war with the Arab world as Israelis. Because my parents and my grandmother tells me about the 48 war, which she experienced as an Iraqi person. Now there, I mean, the most concern was that they were not going to be accused for spying for Israel, okay? And they were not aware of the fact that they were going to emigrate to Israel. They were thinking they're just going to stay there and the situation is going to go bad because they are Jews and there's an enmity between Iraq and the new Jewish state. Now they live in 51, and of course there was the 56 war, but it was very limited in terms of its impact on Israelis. But in 67, it is the same people who experienced the 48 war as Iraqis. They now experience a new Arab-Israeli war as Israelis. And I think it did something to the Arab Jewish psyche, something bad, not good. That suddenly, you know, the people whom you saw as neighbors, but also the members of the majority in a society that was basically oppressive, yeah, suddenly they are the ones who are defeated. Then we have to ask, what it really means that these people moved in 51 to Israel, changed their identity, and then experienced a complete victory in the sense that it was a total naksa, you know, to see their own brothers, quote unquote, or older brothers, you know, suddenly defeated, people whom they had to treat, you know, with a certain respect because they were the majority. And the song that they were singing was, I mean, I just remember the beginning, it was Lulu 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 Lani. And at that moment, you know, I remember this because I used to watch, I'm a big fan of Dorid Laham. Yeah, I have all his tapes there. And this is a song that he sings in one of the moments he's totally defeated and he's in prison. Okay? And it's like a very, you know, you really want to cry.
I always knew I was Iraqi, and in fact what's shocking is to see, even before I understood anything about this the conflict, the ethnic conflict within Israel, I was so terrified of speaking Arabic outside in the street. I was so conscious that the European Jews gazing at us for being different, almost not only making fun of us, but really looking at us with hostility. My father remembers that when he went to work in the early days after arriving to Israel, then there were some other Iraqis, and they were speaking in Arabic, and their Ashkenazi European Israeli boss was saying, you're speaking Arabic? This is not an Arab state. This is Israel. We speak here Hebrew. So in a sense, the policing, this was among colleagues, friends. There was a policing from the very beginning of our cultural identity and our belonging. And in a sense, those kind of experiences became so traumatizing that we internalized that voice or gaze, not to listen to Arabic music, not to speak Arabic. But at the same time, we continue doing it at home. So in a sense, I often talk about it as a kind of a schizophrenic existence, as kind of a split personality. You're trying to live to a certain kind of Euro-Israeli ideal of identity, while at the same time in your community, you're practicing something completely different. We were, at home we would listening to the Arabic-speaking station on television, on the radio. We would hear Kulthum, Nazim al-Ghazali, Salima Pasha. This was the music I grew up with, the Iraqi food. I often feel like that the way for my family and my community to maintain their identity at home was music, food, but at the same time in the public sphere they might have fought against racism, but it took many years for them to assert their identity in the public sphere. In fact, it was more my generation. Certainly in my writing I have worked on this whole question of cultural identity and asserting my Arabness, my Iraqiness. That was not a simple thing to do, not even until the mid-90s. To do that, you were still very much punished in Israel.
My mother left Baghdad as a teenager. She was 14 years old and left with the Zionist movement. My father left with his family in 1950 and came to Israel and settled with his family in a transit camp. My mother was very interested in assimilating into Israeli society, which really meant assimilating into Ashkenazi society. So it was very important to her that we live among European Jews. Therefore, we lived in a very white, what I would say white, Ashkenazi neighborhood in Tel Aviv. The schools were considered to be good. The housing was considered to be respectable. What had happened to me growing up in that neighborhood was that I felt very alienated and very disconnected from my own roots, and it was really living some kind of a schizophrenic life where I would come home and my parents conversed mainly in Arabic, but also in Hebrew, some kind of a mixture. But I came from playing or being around European children and European teachers, and the gap was very pronounced. The only time that I felt good as a child, when I felt comfortable and accepted, was when I used to go and visit my grandparents, who lived in a suburb of Tel Aviv, in Holon. There, it was comfortable. They played Arabic music, they ate their Iraqi food, my grandmother would cook, they would converse in Arabic, and they never questioned if I was smart or not. They accepted me for who I was, and that was my saving grace, really.